In this presentation, I will be evaluating and investigating the use of cross-curricular learning in maths and science. For the purpose of this presentation, cross-curricular learning will be defined as when the skills, knowledge and attitudes of a number of different disciplines are applied to a single experience, problem, question, theme or idea. However, it is important to note that there are many different explanations of cross-curricular learning. Traditional pedagogical approaches to education promote single-subject teaching. This method is becoming increasingly inappropriate for a 21st century society, largely due to the growth of technology such as ICT and Internet and the diverse community in which we live in. Barnes, 2011. We must first reflect on the historical context of education and where it all sits. The 1931 Harrow Report, carried out by the Board of Education in 1931, expanded on Dewey's idea that child-centred philosophies should be seen in terms of experience and activity, rather than knowledge to be learned and facts to be remembered. Barnes, 2011. This was then supported by Plowden Report, 1967, which argued that the tight constraints of discrete learning can often break children's train of thought and interest, thus preventing them from realising common elements of problem solving. The report suggests that at least some should be presented across curricula. This was all pushed aside when the national curriculum was introduced, which was structured by discrete subject teaching. From my experience, I found this to be true. If children are given time, they can engage in activities and take them to a further level. When the environment has been strict for timings for each lesson, I found that children are just starting to get somewhere when the lesson is ended. It's also important to reflect on how theory supports us in the quest for cross-curricular learning. Johnston, 2005, discusses how constructivist theories derived from Piaget's cognitive theory advocate that children construct their own meaning from experiences and learning. Johnston goes on to say that children learn best when they're allowed to make their own meaning through play, social interaction and observation. Constructivist theory is also guiding reforms in mathematics and science teaching. We need to move away from learning facts and towards learning for purpose that helps us to make sense of the world. Larvey and Wenger, 1991, and Glasson, 2005, notion of situated learning has become a guiding principle, which was then supported by Putnam and Walker, 2000. They both suggest that how a person learns, for instance the situation, is a fundamental part of what is learned. The important thing to note here is that this is American research and we need to question whether it can be adapted to the UK education system. This makes science, maths and cross-curricular learning a perfect match. National science education standards have highlighted how important it is for students to develop the ability to perform scientific inquiry, to develop their own questions and design their own research, and then carry out this research. Monson and McDuffie, 2009. Teachers are also being encouraged to involve their students in authentic, real-life scientific investigation. Similar, the National Council of Teachers has called for teachers to incorporate more data representation within their teaching. This is supported by Connell and Higgins, 2003, who explain that children need to experience real data in order to develop skills in understanding graphs. Rutherford and Aguirre, 1990, and Boss et al. 2010, highlight that science can give math interesting problems to investigate, while science gives students the tools in order to analyse them. This is something that I have come across in my own practice. From teaching in Year 1 classes to nursery classes, there is always the same guiding principle, that children need to experience something in order to fully grasp it. Further to all of this, the NCTM and NRC guidelines for the learning process for the respective subjects share remarkable similarities. As you can see from the table, the two columns show how similar they really are. Although this supports all previous research and the assumption that maths and science are similar, there is no actual solid research that has been carried out, so we cannot simply make assumptions. How does this look in practice? Glasson, 2005, discussed how the ideal assumption that teachers have the pedagogical and subject knowledge of both maths and science and are able to teach them both effectively, that they will be able to blend maths and science seamlessly. This is a somewhat unrealistic view, which would come with its own challenges. A more realistic approach would be for the connections between maths and science to be established, and then teachers can then build on these various connections. But how will we do this? So why is play beneficial? To many adults, play can be characterised as aimless messing about, but in truth, play is a time when children are engaged in high levels of motivation, creativity and learning. The foundation stage in particular articulates the importance of making links between playing and learning. Both Freeman and Piaget support the notion of play and are supported by Broadhead 2009, who discusses how playful activity can become cognitively challenging. However, Cohen 2006 and Hayes 2010 disagrees. Cohen argues that there is a difference between a playful state of mind and a serious state of mind, and for learning to take place, children need to switch between the two. I can relate to Cohen, as in my current setting, boundaries need to be set. If children are provided with a form of scaffolding, then they can lose focus and become boisterous or off task. Support from this comes from the Relevance of Science Education, or ROSE for short, project. This draws attention to the importance of humanising science and maths to raise the interest of learners. These subjects need to be localised and be in context recognisable to the learners. This has long been done through engagement, which has always been seen as important, but this is not enough. Learners need to have a chance to actively reflect on what they are learning. Wake and Newton 2014. As we have seen, the ACTM and NRS call for the integration of maths and science, and much of the research they support promotes the use of play, which can also be referred to as authentic learning. Tracy and O'Donoghue 2013. Authentic learning places classroom teaching in real-life context, thus making it more accessible to children. How does this all fit with the national curriculum and early years foundation stage? The national curriculum is set out in discrete subjects to be taught in a discrete manner. However, the curriculum also describes how we should offer an education which is balanced and broadly based, which prepares pupils at the school for the opportunities, responsibilities and experiences of later life. It is important to note that the white paper, The Importance of Teaching 2010, promoted that the new curriculum will allow a greater degree of freedom in how knowledge is acquired. So how do science and maths interlink in the national curriculum? So the curriculum calls for students to apply their mathematical knowledge to their understanding of science, including collecting, presenting and analysing data. Maths is an interconnected subject where students need to be able to move from ideas of maths to putting them into practice. Pupils should make connections across the curriculum in order to become mathematically fluent. Early Years Foundation Stage 2012 describes the way in which children are engaged with other people and their environment through playing and exploring, active learning, creating and thinking critically. The EYFS is not so explicit in subject areas. While maths and science are provided with their own areas, science has been grouped with understanding of the world. In the early years, this can work to our advantage as there is far more room for movement within the curriculum. The organisation of the early years is far more suited to cross-curricular learning. I know from my own practice that the ethos behind early years is learning through play, so this provides scope for cross-curricular learning. For instance, in my placement we are about to start an understanding of the world topic on growth, and we're going to have baby chicks in our classroom. Whilst this will teach children about growth and the life cycle, it will also give us a chance to talk about children about change, number and measuring. So how does this translate into activities? The two activities on the slide show how maths and science can be integrated in an authentic approach. It is important to note though what is the learning, whether it's maths with science or science with maths. Personally, I think this can be defined by the learning objective. Hayes 2010 highlights some barriers to cross-curricular learning. Insufficient rigour. Children have regular opportunity to gain fundamental skills in key subjects. They may avoid areas of learning they find difficult, promoting poor work habits and attitudes. And finally, some cross-curricular links are more natural. Maths and science are a special case as they fit naturally. ICT is an essential aspect to 21st century education. Bechter 2005 discovered that there are measurable benefits, such as schools with higher levels of ICT resources tended to perform better in the eyes of Ofsted than those with lower. Data loggers are one way of merging maths, science and ICT. They can record data over time, which would otherwise be impractical in primary settings. It can assist with the recording of results and plotting of graphs. Whilst children do need to learn these skills, it is not necessary to do it every time, and this way children can have more time to interpret the data. Digital media is another way of integrating the three subjects. Digital media can come in many different forms, such as photos, videos. They provide the opportunity to record events over time, such as growing plants. They can help children access learning if they may otherwise struggle. Howard et al. In Dunn and Peacock. Cross-curricular learning displays many positive attributes, but I think it's important to note that science and maths are a special case, and this approach would not always work with different subjects. In the early years, it is a lot easier to implement a cross-curricular approach, as this is the ethos of early education. It becomes more difficult within Key Stage 1, but there is definitely an argument for it. In order to ensure that gaps in knowledge were not created, it would be sensible to teach the subjects discreetly, but then use authentic examples in order to consolidate the children's learning.